The slightly edgy part of that when you're a public channeler is you have no control over what is about to come out of your mouth because you're not in control of your own brain anymore.
We have Lee Harris, a channeler, author, intuitive.
I'm on the subway having these negative thoughts in my head, which I was very familiar with. I heard this voice say, "That's a very interesting thought, but you're wrong." People have said, how did you know you could trust that voice or believe that voice?
Would you be willing to channel for us a little bit?
Of course, yes. A pleasure to be with you. So there is a mainframe that all of you come from, that many of you are working to get back to. All of you now are coming back to cosmic consciousness. You are all of the universe, not of Earth. And that is going to become understood on your planet, not necessarily peacefully at first.
Does that mean that what we call disclosure is imminent in the near future?
What do you think is happening in this moment in this room?
Yes.
We would say disclosure has been happening for a very long time.
There's a lot of chaos in the world right now, and people are very fearful. Is there anything that you can offer the audience to help them during this time?
Yes, one of your biggest challenges right now is discerning when you are being manipulated into fear, because that is happening a lot.
Did you just say that we were inappropriately tampered with 10,000 years ago?
Yes.
Welcome to the Acid for Squares podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Dahl.
And I'm Cody Blue, and on today's episode, we have the legendary, the iconic, the great and powerful Lee Harris, a channeler, author, intuitive, and musician. Brother, thank you for being on. We appreciate you. Round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause.
Thank you for having me.
We've followed you for a long time, and we've heard nothing but good things about you from our mutual friends. So, we couldn't wait to get you in the studio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. You two are a breath of fresh air, for sure. It's lovely to be here.
Right back at you. Okay, so what we would love to do is start off by having you tell us your story of how you came to channeling.
So I first heard about channeling through Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb. And at the time I was reading it, I was 19. So that would have been like 1995. And in the book, she talked about going to see a channeler. And at the time, I was very much into my spiritual awakening and my self-growth journey. And I loved things like tarot readings or intuitives. Like, to me, that all made sense. But channeling was just a bridge beyond. And a friend of mine took me to see a channeler when I was about 21. And she said, there's this guy, he's a channeler. He does it on a Wednesday night and he'll see 2 people and I've booked us to go. Would you like to come? So I said, okay. Went into the room, met this really nice man and his wife. They were lovely. They were very friendly. And he said, okay, you ready for the session? So he walked me into the room and we sat down and he closed his eyes and he started to give me all of this information. And as he was giving me the information, I noticed his voice had changed. His voice had become a little different. And he said, the guide I channel is called Hazim. And we were driving home in the car afterwards, and my friend said, what did you think? And I said, well, everything he said was kind of uncanny about my past and my present. And then he gave me some future predictions. I can't vouch for those, but I said, I don't understand why he couldn't just give me that information. Why did he have to put on the funny voice and close his eyes? Clearly he's intuitive. So I can't sit here and say I didn't believe him, because I believed what was coming through in the information, but I think the delivery system was just a little foreign to me. It wasn't anything I knew. So flash forward, and 2 years later, I'm on the London Underground on my way to my job at the time, which was in fundraising. And I was working on getting into the music industry. That was kind of my goal and my focus. And one morning, I'm on the subway having these negative thoughts in my head, which I was very familiar with. And all of a sudden, in the middle of this negative bounce back in my own mind about a relationship I was in at the time, my guides, which I've never heard before, but this voice from the left and it's positioned about here above my head. That's how if it was a person, they would be about here. And I heard this voice say, that's a very interesting thought, but you're wrong. And then they proceeded to tell me why I was wrong and why my opinion about the relationship I was in was incorrect and why it was a wound that I had that was showing up between us. And what was interesting about it, because people have asked me a lot about this now, because now this moment seems more significant than it did to me at the time. At the time, it was just this strange experience. But people have said, how did you know you could trust that voice or believe that voice? And what happened for me was, as well as wise advice like a therapist or a wise friend could have given you, that was one piece of the information because the information made sense. But what I noticed in my body was my body just opened and something shifted. So if my energy field, if I could demonstrate it, if my energy field when I was just in my own negative voice was probably a bit like this, then once they'd explained to me the wound I was in, the wound me and my ego were in about what I thought I was right around, literally it was like this happened. And the tension and the weight lifted, my heart opened, my body opened. So it was this very palpable opening experience. And I quite quickly said, who are you? What are you? Because I knew this wasn't one of my voices. I knew my voices really well. And also the frequency was different and they were useful. They had information I didn't have. And they said, we're your guides and we're a group and I'm the lead spokesperson. And that was kind of how it began. And often I'm asked, was I afraid? And I've always said, no, they felt like home. And they felt like a voice that was safe, loving, and helpful. I was only afraid of potentially having to talk about it to other people.
Did you grow up spiritual or with religion or anything like that in your family?
No, we were born, I was raised and born in Britain and, we might go to church maybe at Christmas for a carol service. And that wasn't even every year. It was very really there was nothing there. I do remember praying to God when I was younger. So I had an understanding of praying to a power greater than myself. I do remember doing that. But no, I was actually the family member that went off towards spirituality and self-growth before any other member of my family had. And I was the youngest.
Why were you afraid to potentially have to talk about this to other people?
Because it was crazy, and because I wasn't stupid, I knew what the judgment would be.
Right.
And so for me, I was growing up at that time, I had come out as gay at the age of 16 and that wasn't fun. Having to kind of fight for your right to love and fight for your identity. And I can sit here and say that now and it makes me sound very strong and I fought for my identity at the age of 16, but you don't feel like that. You feel very nervous and you feel like you're going to get ostracized or judged and to some degree that did happen with some people. So here I was 7 years later with this other thing. And I was like, oh God, now, this is another barrier to my connections with other humans. And
it's a greater minority. It's a much greater, it's such a minority that most people don't even know it exists.
Well, and at the time, because I lived in England, I didn't understand how vitriolic certain religious groups could be, say, in America or other places, because I feel like in America, religion is much more ingrained than it is in England. And that can be a beautiful thing. Or if someone is weaponizing religion against a group or a person or an individual they don't like, that can be a horrendous thing. So I think I was a little shielded from understanding all of that at that time. But, I wasn't on the internet doing it. So I wasn't exposed to what can come at you as kind of pushback or attack.
What made you come out about it? What led to that moment? What was the catalyst?
A friend. So I had a friend. I still have that friend, even though we don't see each other very often. And she was a yoga teacher, Kundalini yoga teacher, and is out there now doing her work. Alethea Pistia Sophia. She's changed her name a few times, but I think I've got that right. And at the time, I helped her and her then partner, who was a shaman, with some issue they were going through. We were just at coffee and I would get messages for people. So before I did it for work, I would say be sat with you guys having a meal, and we'd be talking about something, and I would just hear things about you, for you. And then I would always have the choice, well, are these people who might want that information or not? And if they are, I'll just say, hey, I'm getting some messages. Do you want them? And then you have the choice to say yes or no. So because I did that with her, she said, why aren't you doing this for a job? And I didn't know it could be a job. But at the time, I just left fundraising to focus full-time on music. I was working in a bar just to make money. So I thought, okay, well, I'm earning £10. So maybe I could do a reading for £10, and the reading will take £10 an hour. So that's kind of what I did. When she said, why don't you do this? I can send you out in my newsletter to 300 people. And I was like, oh my God, 300 people. You know, this is 2004. So for anyone in today's internet culture, it's hard to think of a time where someone with a newsletter of 300 people on the internet was a big deal. But back then it was like, what is this new frontier?
Yeah.
So I after doing lots of readings very quickly, because people would refer me to their friends, and I would do readings based on 3 questions. I'd say, send me 3 questions and I'll spend 90 minutes channeling the answers. So at the beginning I would just type, and that would take about 90 minutes. They'd get about 5-6 sides of typed A4. I would ship it off to them on email, and then I would get the responses, and then their friends would come. So it just kind of took off. And it was this very interesting moment for me on a self-growth level of saying yes to something that scared me, which was a theme I was working on that year. I'd been to a few self-growth workshops, and my theme was, I'm uncomfortable in quite a lot of areas. So I need to push into that as much as I can. And so when she challenged me to do it, I just said yes, thinking no one would come. And I did 15 years of one-on-one sessions until 2019. And I think there were only 2 times ever that I didn't have someone waiting for a reading from me. And I think both those times lasted about 4 days before another one came in. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But also it's fascinating to me that there are other things that you can be focusing on and trying to make happen, and they're not happening. And then this thing that you never thought could be like a thing just organically happens. So there was something about trusting the flow. And actually it was the one-on-one sessions that led to everything else. They kind of led to training me to speak generally to a group. Through the one-on-one and through tapping in for an individual, I started to learn how to transpose it for a workshop room, or, the hundreds of thousands of people who watch an energy update every month. That's kind of my focus. So I think that one-on-one work, which I loved, was everything. I think it trained me in everything I needed to know for all of the ways that I now bring the same work through, but in various different modalities. The way a session would work was, let's say you two had come to me together as a couple, because I've got you both in front of me, and I would sometimes work with couples. I also work with couples who were separating and wanted to do it consciously. You would come on screen, I'd go, hi Cody, hi Tanya. You'd have given me your name, which I assume would be your true name, but who knows? And for the first 25 to 30 minutes, I would just speak to you. So I would be like this, and I would start receiving information, and I would just start telling you all of it. And that would last 25 to 30 minutes. And then I would say, okay, great time for questions. So then you would ask me questions, and I would receive the information and give it to you. And then usually for the last 10, 15 minutes, I would channel the Z's, because their frequency is different. So they bring in a kind of cosmic overview. So the way I differentiate between me being an intuitive and me being a channeler is, me as an intuitive, I'm sat here with you two right now. I could start getting things and speaking them to you humanly. When I channel the Z's, my eyes will be closed because I find it more comfortable. And it will be their perspective, their viewpoint. There will be things they will say that I can't vouch for, verify, or even understand sometimes. So it's 2 very different positions on the ladder. So I feel like the channeling, you go to the very top of the ladder, which is fantastic and kind of opens people and elevates them and moves their energy. But equally, going halfway up the ladder with the intuition is also helpful, because it bridges people. It's not such a stretch, and it's something that they can connect to their body in a different way, which is why I like to do both.
Whoa. So the Z's are halfway up the ladder?
No, they're at the top.
Oh.
I can go halfway up the ladder as an intuitive. So for example, if I was getting messages for you two right now, they're there. You know, they're part of it, but they're not necessarily feeding me words. But they are part of the place I go to receive the information. Or it's not even a place I go to. It's a place that opens up, because I'm sat here with you, but I'm so now used to hearing words and sentences and trusting to bring them through based on how they feel.
How did the communication with the Z's happen?
Yeah. And
that was on the subway. So that was my guides. Yeah, that was them. So yes. And the reason they're called the Z's is they said, you can call me Zachary. I'm the lead spokesperson for your guides. And then a few years later, after I had been channeling publicly, at the time I had a partner called Story Waters, who very sadly passed earlier this year at the young age of 53. So, we've all been letting him go this year, but he and I lived and worked together for 3.5 years. He was a brilliant spiritual author and channeler. And he interviewed me a lot when I was channeling and recorded it, because he had lots of questions about who they were. And so we have all these tapes where we learnt the names of some of the others. So Zayadora and Zafariah were two that came through in one of those sessions that said, we'd like to speak publicly as well. I wasn't thrilled about this because it felt a little freak show to me. I wasn't sure how, I don't know. I had my own reservations about the idea of having one male guide, one female guide, and one who said she was a blend of the two, but she sounded female. I was a little uncomfortable about that.
Now there's a party inside my body.
Yeah, and you never knew which one you were going to get. So that's how they ended up being called the Z's, because the audiences who would come to those workshops back in 2006 to 2009 would say, we're going to get one of the Z's. And so it just kind of stuck. So I didn't name them in that way. The audience did. And so that was kind of how it stuck.
Wow. So, I think the most important thing is, what is their message? Why are they coming through at this time through you?
Well, they've said that they're my contract. So even if I choose to stop publicly channeling, they will always be with me. They're part of my line on Earth. So yes, there's a job that I'm doing right now, but they've always said, if and when you choose to stop, we will still be with you. But what I have come to understand, and of course, maybe I'll have an even more evolved understanding of this in 5 years, is the job which they work with me on is bringing a frequency upshift for people who are ready to upshift into their own higher self or their soul. I feel like what they do, and I work with them to do it, is to bridge people back to their soul. And then I think, because of my own experiences with self-growth and my own interest and also my own compassion for how hard it is, a lot of people go, I awakened, how wonderful. And it's like, was it though? Or was it like a really great 3 weeks followed by 9 weeks of hell,
or years,
where everything was, right?
A lot of chaos,
and I think there's often, I didn't see a lot talked about around that. And particularly in the channeling world, I didn't see many channelers facilitating people. And I noticed that when you expose people to channeling, they will leave their body, some of them. So I was thinking, well, how are these people alchemizing what they just learned? Because I would be taken as a speaker to channeling conferences, and I would witness this world of channeling that I didn't know even existed. And it was very much here in the States, more so than in the UK. And I would see these people float and then leave the channeling room, and then they'd come back to the next conference and they'd just do the same thing. And I'd be watching and I'd be going, some of them aren't making progress. Like, some of them are just coming for the hit. They're coming for the fix of the channeling. They're having a lovely weekend. Are they actually making progress? And some were, but that's because they were doing other things. So because I had come from the world of self-growth, intuition, and an understanding that we can consciously evolve our patterns and evolve our awareness, I was never going to just allow myself to be a channeler and cut all that out. So I think that's where, for me, I saw channeling as an exercise in growth. But as a human who is going to be a lifelong student of self-growth, I couldn't not bring that into my work as well. So that's why I'm a bit more of a hybrid than some channels. And I think I'm seeing that more in the world now. But 20 years ago, channelers weren't even keen on being interviewed as themselves, which I found interesting. And Story and I got quite a lot of kickback in 2006. We had people who really loved our radio show that we did called Invitation to Remember, but we would share personally what we were going through as human beings. And we would get emails like, people go, love the channeling, but you two should just shut up about what you're going through. We're not interested. No, I mean, it was, and I was naive because this was a new world to me, but I was like, wow, we're really pissing some people off. Like we're supposed to.
That's how you know you're doing it right.
Now, luckily, I was with Story, a partner who had way more confidence about that than I did. I was raised to care about what the neighbors think. That was in my family programming. So I had a lot to work against with this work. He didn't. He was bold and he didn't care, which is one of the powerful things in our relationship at the time. And I credit him with really giving me the confidence to do this at a time I may not have had it. So, but yeah, we really, I learned quite quickly, there are rules that we are supposed to follow. And if we don't follow them, some people are going to get really annoyed. But I didn't understand it. I thought, why can't channeling be part of your balanced diet of self-growth? Why does channeling have to be this holier than thou bubble? And I just saw the risk. I saw the risk of guru culture. I saw the risk of power abuse. I saw people giving too much power to channels. I would constantly tell people, just because your guide said do it, do you think you should? Do you think you have to? Are you capable of doing what they're suggesting? Because that's the art. It's not my guides told me to do this. It's, okay, I've had a message from my guides. Is this for now? Is this for 3 years from now? Is this just to get me thinking differently? How am I doing? How is this body, this nervous system doing? And what I saw, and I understood it because I had done the same thing, is a lot of people going into spirituality to heal. But if they weren't given the right framework, the right tools, or the right level of holding, they were escaping. And so they'd keep leaving the body through some spiritual exercise and it get the hit, the feel-good thing. But then they wouldn't know how to either move out the shadow or what was coming up. So that was why I got very, and this is a long time ago. I mean, in terms of how the world has developed, I feel like now integration, whether it's breath work or whether it's, I think we understand that spirituality, and this has always been my experience, is sensory. Spirituality should not be a mental experience. It's not about what we know about the fifth dimension. That gets boring really quickly. Are we actually in our hearts? Are we actually sensing? Are we actually having experiences that are very palpable in the body where you go, ooh, this is more energy than I've ever felt. What is this? That is the opening of your spirituality.
Right. Well, this is a frustrating thing for us. I mean, we had Danny Sheehan on and...
Do you know Danny?
I don't know.
It's amazing.
He's a attorney that does like UFO disclosure.
He's on the forefront of disclosure.
Yeah.
He has an office that lobbies the government in Washington, but he had a great line on the show. He said, it is heretical to nounify God. And it's interesting whenever you have these experiences that are transcendental and healing, samadhi, whatever you want to call it, it's post language, it's post thought. So when we're in a situation, we're always talking about it. But at a certain point, this is really just a stepping stone to access that experience yourself, so you can, have your own channel and have your own relationship with, call it whatever you want, God, your higher self, the universe, whatever. I don't care what you call it, but you can become your own guru. And then the only other reason to really talk about this is to have a community to help integrate and put these into actions, is to sort of, I guess, ground this in the ground the ideas and the lessons in the physical experience. You know what I'm saying?
Completely.
But it's kind of the same thing with even like ayahuasca circles or something like that. Like people go to ceremony every weekend and they're never integrating anything. And
I've seen that too. And I've noticed.
How long have you been doing this for?
Yeah. Because if you go every weekend for a year, you're not having time to catch up. So yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
the integration's so important.
Yeah, and you're doing these conferences and you have shows and all of that. Like you see, we always say like it's a fascinating hall of mirrors to be in. Do you know what I'm saying?
It is. I think I remember being quite shocked in the early years. Meeting, say, some of the heroes who'd written some of my favorite spiritual books and seeing the way they might behave backstage towards the person bringing us water. And I was like, whoa, it was odd. But I've come to know that wherever humans are, human stuff exists.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes there is this over-deification of a spiritual teacher just because they wrote a good book or they can do something good on stage. It's like they're still just a human being.
Yeah.
And are they behaving well? Or are they, and I don't mean that to make it sound worse than it is, but I think one of the reasons that we have this slightly idolizing view of spiritual figures is because most of us were not raised with any access or understanding to spirituality. You guys are younger than me, so maybe it's different for your generation and definitely the generation after you. But I think when people are told they know nothing about spirituality, the first teacher that comes along who says, the ninth dimension is purple and you get in by holding a four-leaf clover, they're going to go, okay. And they'll go to their friends, they'll go, the ninth dimension is purple and you get in by holding a four-leaf clover. Do you though? Does everybody? No, maybe that's how you got in, but someone else is going to get in another way. And so that was the other thing I started to notice, that I didn't understand it for years, but I did exactly the same thing when I first went to self-growth and self-development workshops. I would also overly attribute power to the person at the front. And one of the things I always say at my live events, whether it's my week-long Soul Magic or a 2-day Energy Mastery event or whatever, I'm very aware that maybe it's me that got them in the room. But the most powerful experience they're going to have in the room, if we do our jobs right, is falling in love with each other. Not with who's on the stage, falling in love with themselves and falling in love with each other. And that's our job. And I know when I end a retreat, everything has gone well if I'm looking at people who are new friends, because that's my job. However, on day 1, I understand I might be a person of interest. By day 6, if they are less interested in me and more interested in each other, I did my job and I can go home happy.
That's beautiful.
And that's such a great way to look at it. It's so important because it's always bringing it back to community and self-healing.
Yes, 100%. And I also would like to add, it's really interesting that the channel, sometimes it can get this judgment or why do you have to give credit to this other thing and why this and why that? Why can't it just be your intuition? A really interesting thing is it's a co-creation. This is all a co-creation. And as soon as we realize and start using we and talking as a group and getting out of the self, it's one of the ways we honor them, our ancestors, the other side, and connect to the greater whole of what really reality is, which we're co-creating with each other. And I think that's also one of the trappings we're seeing is like the disease of me, the deification of the self or the ego, and I get it, like the I am and this and that, and it is I am, but it's also us. Like it's us. Like we're trying to get back home to each other and figure out what separated us in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So when we're talking about like the function of a channel, and there's a lot of reasons why, but the idea of moving into a we is such a seismic leap into what we're really talking about with spirituality. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
It truly is a beautiful thing to witness. I think it's interesting seeing all our channeler friends and the ones we have on the show slowly as they go, because they have to compartmentalize and create a bit of separation to communicate their work. But as they go, they're becoming more one with what they're channeling, but they now are existing in a paradigm they presented of separation. And to watch them wrestle with that construct in the culture with a lack of understanding of the reality of is that they are simultaneously becoming one with what is coming through to them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Do you experience this?
I do. And my own consciousness and world viewpoint is radically different to what it was 30 years ago because of them. And I also, I had people advise me over the years. They would like pull me aside and they'd say, you're really good at what you do. If you could just stop doing the channeling, you'd be more successful or you'd be more. And I didn't think they were wrong, but that wasn't my goal. Trust me, there are 2 times in my life. The last time was 2016 when I seriously thought I'm going to stop channeling publicly. And I didn't both times. And I have to say, I am not a channeling fan. I am not the target audience. I'm a music fan. So when I do my music, I fully understand what it is to be in the room watching someone's music gig and loving it, or repeat playing a song that I just love. So when I'm creating music or performing live, I fully understand that relationship. Channeling for me wouldn't be my way. So I think the only way I have been exposed to all this channeling in my life is through doing it. I don't think I would have gone to channeling, which is also very interesting to me to put that aside and recognize that for whatever reason, I've ended up being this channeler for people who a lot of people have resonated with, or they have said that the channels or the Z's have opened them. So that to me is why I carried on, because I thought, okay, there's something beyond my understanding here. Am I happy to do it? Yes. I mean, of course, there are growth edges, and you get lots of amusing criticism online. And when I say amusing, it's because of how misguided the criticism is. But yeah, it's a funny thing. I'm not a channeling fan. Occasionally people give me channeled books or audio. I'm not going to listen. It's not interesting to me. The only channeler who really held my attention was Abraham. And when Story played me
Abraham Hicks.
Esther, Esther, I'd been channeling for several years. And when I heard Esther and Abraham, I was like, whoa, that's the closest thing to the Z's I've ever heard.
It is good to come together for the purpose of co-creating. You bring much more than those beautiful physical bodies you have dragged here, sitting in your clumps on chairs.
And then there are several channelers out there I really respect, and I think they're brilliant. I'm just not going to sit and listen to it for an hour, but maybe it's because I'm already activated.
Yeah.
So I'm a weird barometer
I get that.
of my own work, I think.
Yeah, why buy the cow? You get the milk for free, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it puts me at a disadvantage sometimes, because I think people expect me to retain lots of information from the Z's, or to be able to brilliantly answer your questions really quickly about things. And I'm like, I'm in transmission mode. I'm not in data analysis, recording data mode. So it just doesn't, I'm not that useful sometimes talking about channeling, I think.
Aren't you hollowing yourself out a little bit? I mean, you're educating yourself enough that they can use your instrument to communicate what they need, right? Because they're limited by your vernacular, correct?
Yes, but there are also words they'll use that I don't fully understand, and I'll be like, well, what is that, or what's that context? So there are certain things that, because they definitely have a slightly more, I think their language is more cosmic, but I also think their language can be more Shakespearean, kind of oldie worldy, not necessarily always words I would use, or sometimes the words seem bigger than they need to be. You know what I mean? I would probably work hard to, as an intuitive, I'm usually doing my best job to normalize what I'm saying and try and bring it down to earth. Whereas with the Z's, the job is the opposite. It's just open your mouth, repeat the first sentence that you hear, and then you aren't going to have time to process what's about to come through your mouth before it comes through your mouth, because you're not in control of your own brain anymore. It's kind of a weird thing. You kind of sit behind. So the slightly edgy part of that, when you're a public channeler, is you have no control over what is about to come out of your mouth, and you might be doing it live to a group of people. So it definitely, I'm very used to the skill, and I'm very used to doing the job, but along the way, there have definitely been a series of challenging moments around all of it. You know, even the book The Future Human with Regina was edgy to kind of, you know, and it took me about 2 weeks to recover from those channeling sessions with her.
Can you tell us about this book?
Yeah. So this book, The Future Human, it came out this summer. And Regina Meredith is a brilliant journalist from Gaia TV. And she also has her own experiences with intuition and guides. Yeah.
Thanks for signing it.
You're welcome, of course.
Big love,
of
baby.
course, of course.
Thanks, brother.
So for about 8 hours, and we didn't do it consecutively, we did it over 3 days, Regina interviews the Z's about all of these different aspects around the future of our planet, the future of us as a humanity, things like AI, things like gender roles, things like transgender issues. She just goes everywhere and the Z's answer her. So it was very intense to experience it, but it seems to have really hit a nerve with people. It's the popularity of the book was very fast, which I wasn't sure how it would go, to be honest. But it seems to have hit a nerve with people who read it or who listen to the Audible version, which is the actual recordings as they happen.
Oh.
So it's not a narrated audio. This is you listening to live conversations recorded in a studio, and we did that one in England. So it's interesting.
That's
amazing.
really cool. I don't think I've ever heard of a channeled book being just the
That's
tapes
amazing.
of the channeling itself, but that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to channel for us a
Of
little bit?
course, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
brother.
yes,
You can
yes.
take your time.
Okay, great. I will.
And do you just cook, or do you just
do you
do your
need?
work? Or
Do I just cook? Do you want me to cook as well?
I
I
meant
don't.
like-
Cooking is one of the things I don't
mean,
do.
like,
I
little
meant I meant like let the man cook. Like step back. Like let the man work. Like don't get involved.
No, in a moment, my chair is going to start spinning. No.
Ooh.
Okay, cool. We'll cheer you
It's
on.
nothing that
Go,
exciting.
go.
No, I'm just going to have a little. I'm going to have a little liquid, and then I'm going to hold the crystal, and I'll probably be quiet for a minute, maybe at the most, and then they will start talking. Okay.
I will
Okay.
also have a little liquid.
Very
Cheers,
good.
brother.
Cheers. I like your alien mug.
Yeah, right on theme, huh?
Okay. And usually they'll say something at the beginning, and then they'll invite you to ask questions at a certain point. So we'll see if that's how it goes.
Are you're holding an amethyst stone?
Yes.
Does this help you open your third eye? Is that why?
They explained so when I was a younger student of spirituality and self-growth, I didn't get the crystal people. I didn't dislike crystals, but I used to think, I don't really get these crystal people who are all I'm just going to the book part of the store. And the minute I started channeling, I was obsessed with like crystals. And I was almost a bit embarrassed because I'd been quite vocal about how I didn't understand the crystal people. And now I am
carries
one.
around a giant amethyst in his pocket.
Actually,
Or
I have
whatever.
never ever channeled with this, but this was a gift from a lovely friend, and I saw it today in my office, and I thought, I'm bringing that to your podcast. I normally have a
Yeah.
different one. So the Z's have explained that it helps you conduct the frequency, and to me, the crystalline body, which is the crystalline part of our energy field, which is what I'm using when I'm channeling and when I'm being intuitive, it's kind of like a conducting, grounding force to let the crystalline part of you root somewhere. So that's why I can do it without, because I've had a few times where I've forgotten a crystal, but it's much nicer to have one. So it's one of my habits, I guess.
I totally get that. I used to walk around with a selenite rod in my pocket when we first started dating, and Tanya used to say, "Hey, is that a selenite rod in your pocket?
You just happy to see me."
Both.
Right? That's what I'm talking about. All right, see you later, brother.
Good. A pleasure to be with you in we will call it your high frequency speedy spaceship. For that is what you two like to do. You are very good at speed, and you are very good at grounding high frequencies on Earth. In fact, high frequencies was something that was very important to both of you when you were younger, and there were areas that both of you could find those high frequencies, but you also each had your own relationship to the pain of the world, and how the pain of the world would stop people from accessing their higher selves, their higher hearts, their higher minds. So a journey of discovery for both of you was, how do we create magic on Earth? for creating magic on Earth allows people to access this realm of frequency. So we meet you at this moment in your journey where you, Cody and Tanya, are creating, with the help of your team members, this vessel that goes out to the world. And you create an upshift in people's speed and people's frequency. Why is the speed important? Well, because light moves fast. Light moves fast. So, in order to access your light, you tend to access a new level of speed in yourself, either in the way that you process information, in the way that you move through feeling and your senses, or in the way you receive messages from outside your body that will activate your heart, your soul, your light, animate you as a person. So, we will say that you two are high-frequency speed ambassadors, and that is what you are doing here. So it's a pleasure to be in your field and in this place where you broadcast to the world. We will say that your ultimate mission is one of connection and love, and the two of you will work tirelessly to create that in a myriad of different ways. But the other important thing to understand about the work you do is it helps ground you on Earth. Any of you who came here to Earth to be an ambassador of oneness, an ambassador of love, connection, an ambassador of reminding humans that they are part of a grander cosmic family, your work will ground you on Earth. It will help Earth make sense to you. And so there are those who tune in on the two of you because they are inspired by you and they are doing their own version of what you do. But there are others who are not necessarily doing this work in the world. So how do they ground into this energy? Well, they ground into it through the work that you create. A conversation and a transmission like this will allow them to feel inside themselves the higher frequencies, the wider frequencies, the ability they have to tap into what we would call wider universal light, what might be called by humans wider universal intelligence. So, your role on Earth is quite simple. You are here to create more connection and love. And the two of you are going through an important phase in your lives right now where you are beginning to include yourselves in a bigger way, which is good, meaning you are not just here to serve others. You are understanding that now you have got things up and running the way you want them to be up and running, including yourself. Your own desires, wants, needs when it comes to your own personal growth is very important. But both of you have been ambassadors of this energy before. And in fact, Tanya, you have been the organizer and the orchestrator. And Cody, you have been the orator. So the two of you have worked in those roles before, where Tanya was completely behind the scenes before, and it was Cody who was out front being the orator. And in this life, because harmony and balance is a focus for both of you in your own relationship, you decided to balance those roles more and to be seen as a divine partnership, which is also its own modeling. So yes, you could say you are here asking questions and that's useful and nice, but we would also say you are here modeling frequency. You are here modeling the frequency of your relationship, and you are here modeling what the frequency of your relationship can open up or bring out in a guest or guests who you may converse with. So, what happens to people who listen to this show? They tune in on their higher mind. And that is how many of them begin. But what is the end result for all of them is they will tune into deeper, wider feeling and knowing. And knowing is bodily. It is not to do with the mind. Knowing is when your body is settled, is calm, is open, understands what's going on, is fully rooted in its power on earth, and yet connected to the light of its soul, and how that soul connects to all other souls in the universe, not just those on earth. So there is a main frame that all of you come from, that many of you are working to get back to. And through this show, we will call it, We will also call it more of a broadcast transmission, for that is really what it is doing. It is a signal that people can imbibe and use to activate their own signal program. You are bringing your light to the world and doing the job you promised to do. And a decade from now, you will both be very surprised how far-reaching and broad it has become. But your dedication right now is to wake up as many as possible, and more importantly than waking people up, support those who are already awake, but may not know exactly how to organize themselves. Now they are walking with new legs and feet. So, with that said, we will turn ourselves over to your questions.
What is the best way to help people organize for themselves after their awakening process?
It depends on the level of, we will call it dislocation, the person has. There are some who have an awakening and it might unearth almighty trauma for them. They may need to clear a great deal from their energy field from this lifetime. And so their awakening process can be a little more, shall we say, chaotic looking and a little less what you might call successful, meaning it might take 3 or 4 years to stabilize. Now, we would not call that unsuccessful. We would call that the perfect time for that person. So what we will say to you about people's stabilization is the same rules apply after awakening in terms of what you need as a human to feel balanced, grounded, and aligned on Earth. You need connection. Connection to something, someone, or a group greater than yourself. It may be that you are connected to a purpose you have on Earth, a passion. You are an artist and you are devoted to painting, and that is your connection point. But you also need community. Even those of you who are not so fond of people, you need community, whether it is through the elementals that you are in communion with on an energetic level, whether it is the domestic pets or animals that you take care of. You need connection. You need community. You also need a relationship to vitality. And with this, we do not simply mean eat well and exercise, although, of course, those, as you all know, are very good for your human body. They help support your electrical energy field and your longevity. But what we mean by this is you need to feel nourished by your life. You need to have something in your life that you feel is feeding you. So all of these principles post-awakening still apply as if it were pre-awakening. But what happens during an awakening is you are literally lifted out of your old energy field. And often, many of you are lifted up above your bodies to facilitate this. So you can have that lovely experience of being very high for a while, because you are. But what then happens is you get put back into your body so that you can excavate and, we will say, cause dissonance in your energy field for some of the heavier, lower vibrations that you are now ready to release. And as you are releasing them, you often feel them as if they are happening all over again. So let's say you were a very self-critical person before your awakening, and you get a 3-week awakening where you feel in pure bliss, pure openness, pure harmony, pure oneness. It is joy, 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 and you think you have found the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Shock of all shocks, in week 4, you suddenly feel devastated and you cannot put your finger on why you have dropped down into this intense grief. Well, because your frequency shifted high enough that you are now ready to dislodge that which can no longer be the foundation. You cannot have heaviness and grief as the foundation of a lighter, brighter energy, so you have to let it move out of your system. You can always intend for a more peaceful awakening by remembering you have a lot of power in your words and your energy direction. You can say, I need peace. Please, universe, bring me peace in this awakening process. Universe, please bring me grace and ease in this awakening process. So part of the problem for many of you when you first go through your awakening or are post-awakening is you still have victim consciousness running. So you still think you are a victim of something that happened to you. You are not yet aligned with the understanding that, My awakening just occurred for me. So now I can make an awakened choice, which is to speak to my guides, my team of angelics, the universe, and ask for this process to go a little more smoothly. And on a human level, I will support and back that up by making sure I am taking good care of myself as I go through this. So awakening is different for different people depending on how much they need to dislodge at that moment in time. But remember, awakenings happen repetitively. There are very few who have one big awakening and that is it. Most of you have a series of them. And as you get more acclimatized to awakening energy, as you go through further and deeper awakenings, they tend to be more of the pleasurable variety, the harmonic variety, and less of the, shall we call it, purge variety.
Is the vocation of the channel, medium, psychic, actually the evolutionary potential of all of humanity?
Yes and no. What we will say is not the vocation is the potential, but the ability is the potential. The vocation has grown in visibility simply because this is the way that many are learning. You are not holding groups in your town squares where people sit and meditate together or channel together, but your internet at this point in time is a place where people will go for frequency, for information, for experience, for sensory happenings through their body, starting with their mind or their heart. It is no different to someone who hears a certain piece of music and starts to cry. You can have the same reaction to something a person says, or something that comes through a channel or a conversation. So all humans are looking for this opening, this connection to something greater than themselves. And a big part of that is an increasing normalization for all of being reminded that this three-dimensional world that you might see or perceive as a humanity is not the world. It's simply one perspective and one layer of the world. And all of you now are coming back to what we would call cosmic consciousness, which is no longer human consciousness. It is the opening of the layers of truth that you are all of the universe, not of Earth. And that is something that in the coming decades is going to become completely understood on your planet, not necessarily peacefully at first. At first, there will be all kinds of reactions to it, but there will be enough of you that will stabilize this frequency on Earth and know that this frequency is of truth, that you will get through it as a humanity and you will cross to the other side where your understanding of being galactic becomes known. And your old ideas that you are human will start to become, we would call it, historic.
Wow. You just said galactic? Does that mean that what we call disclosure is imminent in the near future, where there is open contact with either interdimensional or extraterrestrial beings at a global level?
What do you think is happening in this moment in this room?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, we would say disclosure has been happening for a very long time. Disclosure has been here for a very long time. Many are still looking for one big event. What we will tell you is it is a series of compounding events, conversations, telepathic communication that is reminding all of you of your true origins. Your story of being a human on Earth is a beautiful story, but it also has its darkness and its shadow as well, you know. So, as galactic consciousness is allowed to enter Earth's energy field in a deeper way, what you are beginning to be returned to are the higher harmonics of oneness consciousness. Now, is it possible to stabilize oneness on Earth in the next decade? No, it will not be. But that is not the goal, nor need it be. Oneness consciousness is going to continue to permeate slowly through more and more people who start to take that on, who are no longer concerned about their own life and their own, we will say, we do not mean this in a judgmental way, but we understand this word is often used that way, their own selfish focus. And we're not accusing people of being selfish here. We are simply saying they are more self-oriented. My family, my job, my belongings. There is no my. So we understand that the Mai is a point of focus for many, but that is what is dissolving on Earth. And as you become more galactic, your rigid, boxed ideas of who you are as humans starts to not only dissolve, but also expand. And as the vastness of your soul starts to return to you, you begin to have access to cosmic information. You begin to have access to your cosmic energy field, which is electrical in nature and is enormous. So let's explain this to you. You are looking at a human's body. Let's say there is a human you are looking at right now and you can see their physical body. The cosmic energy field, that which connects you to universal knowledge, universal energy, that is, we will describe it in measurement terms. You could see 10 meters all the way around the human body. And that is the beginning of a cosmic energy field. That is how wide a cosmic energy field can go. So yes, you look at your bodies as a fixed point. And understandably, there are limits to your physical body. We understand that. But the physical body is just the reference point. It's the point through which everything else is carried. This is why some are still mystified about psychic information. They will say things like, how did that person know that about me? That's the wrong statement. The statement should be, how is it that person was able to access the information about me that exists all around me? Because that's what they did. They are able to live in that realm, that width, that vastness of their own energy field, and they are able to, in a sensory way, pick up whatever information you are offering to them. This is why the power that is attributed to a psychic or an intuitive is often inappropriately fearful. People are worried about what someone else might see about them. Well, that is par for the course. You are an open book as a soul. You have been taught as humans you need to hide parts of who you are because you were taught to be ashamed of parts of who you are. That is the biggest crime. The biggest crime on Earth is that humans were tampered with and were what we will call dumbed down in terms of their potential. And this happened 10,000 years ago. So you are now at the point in time where you are beginning to come back online. The future human is already here, and there are going to be many of you who are the seeds of it, many of you who are the way showers for it, many of you who are the bridges of it. You are not special. It is just your role. But for many of you, it's the only reason you came back. And for many of you, it's the last life in this incarnation. You said, yes, I'll come back as a bridge builder. That looks like purposeful work. That will make the incarnation tolerable. Yes, sign me up. And many of you only agreed to do it if you could have other allies come too. So we know that some of you, like you, Cody and Tanya, found each other, and that is wonderful. But this is an era where more of you are going to find each other. And we don't just mean in romantic relationship, even though that's a very powerful form of awakening, to be in romantic relationship, but you are in romantic relationships with pets, with business partners, with friends. And you may say, I'm not in a romantic relationship with my business partner. We'll say, yes, you are. There is all kinds of energy flying between you all the time, which is why when you all get very precise and prim and proper about who is a romantic partner and who isn't, for us, it's very sweet to watch you need to organize it all that way. But love is love. You love your friends. You love your partner. You love your mother. You love your child. You love your pet. You love that tree in your garden. Love is love. Love is a connective force. So more of you are going to be finding your, we will call it, mission partners on Earth. This next 5 years particularly, if you are someone who is lonely right now, cast an intention, I want to meet more of my tribe. And you will, because that is how you are going to grow this together.
Did you just say that we were inappropriately tampered with 10,000 years ago?
Yes.
Who so, how so, and why?
Not for today, because, and we will explain why. By placing focus there, it is going to drag too many people back.
Yeah.
And we have touched on this inside various things we have said over the years. But at the same time, it is more important that you all focus on the now, because the way your consciousness has been organized, if you all go into fear or history, it tends to shut you down. So we are not in any way trying to imply that you or your listeners are not capable of this information being received in a good way, but we are telling you that if we go there now, we will drop the frequency of this conversation. And that is not your or our goal.
We agree. We do not want to focus on the fear, but focus on the positive and what unites us. What's up, Tanya?
Speaking of fear, there's a lot of chaos in the world right now, and people are very fearful of what is coming and what our future holds. Is there anything that you can offer the audience to help them during this time?
Yes, one of your biggest challenges right now is discerning when you are being manipulated into fear, because that is happening a lot. So we will address this term conspiracy theories, which has been very much out in the public awareness for many years. And we would say from 2020 onwards, things took an even bigger turn in that direction because of events on Earth that led people to start to connect the dots, shall we say. So conspiracy theories have traditionally been something that you are supposed to be ashamed of, fearful of, and back away from. The energy around that term has been to create the idea that those who believe in conspiracy theories are, shall we say, the word nuts would have been used in the past, or crazy is another word that you would have used. And no one wants these words applied to them on Earth because they understand that could mean ostracization, isolation, and that is not desired. But you are at a time right now where the truth is beginning to surface and different pieces of the truth are beginning to come out. But this is very important, and we have said this for many years. There are those who have also infiltrated the spiritual community to try and fill the spiritual community. So with everything you read, with everything you see, with everything you are exposed to, a level of discernment has to be applied for you. There are many on Earth who have heard a story and decided that that story is the full truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And it is anything but the truth. It has a few grains in it. But it also had a huge dollop of fear. And one of the things that was done by those who did not want the awakening to rise on Earth was to try and co-opt a great deal of spiritual groups into a more fear-based, fear-filled future. Because if you get the visionaries to vision a future that looks very dark, you will help your plan along. Because those visionary minds, those visionary hearts, those visionary souls will start to see, this is the future. This is why we have always said, be very wary of the fixed prediction that tells you what is going to be happening 3 months, a year, 2 years from now. There are predicted themes, there are predicted energies, but you must always recheck because as time moves on, so too does the future timeline adjust. So anytime you hear someone telling you that the world is going to end in 3 months, write down the date, put it on your calendar. And once you've gone through a few of those and you've noticed, we're all still alive, or we are under the illusion we are alive, but we're actually in some other realm, but okay, I'll get on with it. Then you start to notice, fear was the motivator of that. And I spent 3 months disempowered, terrified that we were all going to experience a tsunami that was going to wipe out our city because a very reliable spiritual voice said it. So, ask yourself, what am I believing and why? We have always said, part of the problem that many of you have is you're so fixated on your fear of the future, you're forgetting to live in the present. You are alive. And every choice that you make while you're alive in the present is having a ripple effect on the future, which is why it is not a mistake or a waste to create love and kindness on Earth. And those who are screaming at you saying, there is no time for love and kindness, the world is in a state of emergency, that is their trauma speaking. That is their trauma speaking. If they only have room for anger and judgment,
Be compassionate to them. They are flooded with fear right now. It's not their fault, and they might even think they are trying to protect you. But their righteousness about being right is going to be a problem for them and you. So, to all of you, we would say, hold information lightly. Check predictions, monitor them, study them, see if they come true. And most importantly, a prediction is not something that is given to you so that you can passively sit there and wait for it to play out. A prediction is you looking at your future and seeing where you are headed and giving yourself the opportunity to make a slight refinement or adjustment. That is the power of predictive information. It is not to make you a passive people. It is to make you an active people. And it is to make you a group who understand that the future timelines are here right now, and you are creating the future in this moment. So anyone else who is robbing you of your future by telling you this is how it's going to be, ask yourself, why would I believe that story from that person? Now, we do speak about future events. We do mention things that we are aware of that are coming. But as we always say, as you get closer to each event, it can always be changing and adjusting. And one of the things that we can promise you about this time is the level of chaos and the level of purge and the level of breakdown that you are seeing. But one of the things we have also been promising for years, and that is still playing out, is the level of innovation in consciousness that you are seeing, not just in technology, in consciousness. So, you are in a very difficult, what we would call bottleneck period on Earth. It's not always comfortable, but as those of you who are awake can attest, it has never been more alive in terms of what is available. And the reason there are many of you imbibing that aliveness right now is you are turning it into pockets of aliveness on Earth, either through the consciousness you're creating in the way that you are transmitting and emitting yourself onto the planet, or because of things that you are creating for communities, others. You are powerful beyond measure, and you have been told that is not the truth. So any story that sees you downtrodden, controlled, manipulated, may be coming from the group who desire that to be the reality. Are you going to believe their version of reality? Or are you going to work to diligently and vigilantly create something else? And we understand there are some of you listening to us right now very angry at us for saying this. You say, well, how are we supposed to rise above the system? How are we supposed to get out from under it? And we say, it's not yours to work out with the mind. There will be those of you who will work it out. There are those right now who are in the architecture of various areas on Earth, including politics, as we speak, who are working diligently and quietly and invisibly to help shift the paradigm. But if you aren't on board, and if you feel passive, and if you feel like the world is doomed, you have lost your light. You have lost your connection to light. And by the way, that happens. Don't worry about it. You all go through periods where you lose your connection to light. Why? So that you can come back stronger. It's the dark night of the soul. But don't let the dark night of the soul be the story you tell everybody about the world. Connect to your light. Find your way back. It may take you months, but start small. Ask yourself, what will bring me back to connection, community, purpose? Where do I begin? And if I begin, I will get back to a place where I can be a powerful vessel for this earth and a vessel of change and transformation while I am alive. And today, I know I'm alive. Who knows about tomorrow? You all need to start living from that place of power, which is present moment living. It's not fear-based to remember that you could be dead in a week. It's powerful and it's present.
Is so-called paranormal phenomenon something to be feared, or is it simply the divine reaching out to us viewed through the lens of fear?
There are a couple of ways we can answer this, but we will start here. It is not to be feared, but there are, as there are on Earth with certain humans, there are certain entities that have not crossed over and that want to remain on Earth. And so they hover between Earth and the other side, and they try to get the attention of those who are sensitive. And part of the reason that people have fear-based reactions to this is because of the fear of the entity itself. When you are experiencing an entity who is not settled, who is not at peace, there is often a friction running through them. You would not necessarily encounter the ghost or the spirit or the apparition as holding fear, but you might feel unsettled in their presence. And that is less about you and your fear of seeing the other side. And it is more about the energy that they are trying to balance, process, release in themselves, that they are coming back to Earth to process. So there are those among you who are very adept at seeing through the veil, to those who have passed over. Boundary lessons are usually the issue here, and it is always good for you to look at your own ability with boundaries with other humans if you are having boundary issues with spirit. That is always a good thing to look at, because in many cases you will find that this is an opportunity for you to say no to these visitations, and to also learn to say no to energetic leakage or manipulation that is playing out in your human dynamics too. So no, the paranormal world, as you call it, is not to be feared any more than the human world. And you all have your horror stories about certain humans you wouldn't want to meet or be stuck in an elevator with. It is the same with what you call the paranormal world, but in most cases, it is simply you responding to what you are being shown or seeing, no different to what domestic pets are often seeing and picking up on, particularly the cats.
What are the best ways for people to open up their psychic and mediumship abilities?
Well, firstly, we would say know your goal. Meaning, there are many who say they want to open psychically but they haven't really thought it through. They just think it's an interesting thing, or they would like to have contact with that realm. We would say to you, good, be ready to change. It will change you. You won't be the same. And we don't say that in any ominous way. We do not mean you will not like who you become, but it won't be that you remain this person you are today and you suddenly have psychic communication available to you. No, it will start a process of you becoming more cosmic. So we have said this before, and Lee also speaks about this when he is talking to groups. It is the case that people use channeling to access their own soul. They think they're listening to a certain channeler or entity or guide that they enjoy, and that is often the truth in some ways, and there are many truths to that. But the greater truth is through exposing yourself to that energy, through either being in the room with it, listening to it on a recording or a transmission, you are going to open that energy field up in yourself. So we would say expose yourself to the art of connecting to the other side, whether it is through channeling, mediumship, intuitives, and it might be that you go to those people for either a reading or an experience so that they connect you into that energy, but you will then be able to connect to it yourself. So the one thing we will say to all of you is the voice of your soul has been trying to get back to you since you were a child. There are many of you who have refound the voice of your soul. You managed to hold on to it, nurture it, love it. But for many, and many including listening to this, the voice of your soul is waiting for you to allow it back in. Does not have to be a guide, does not have to be an angel, does not have to be a being from some other planet or dimension. It may be, but it does not have to be. The voice of your soul connects you to everything greater than your, we will call it, limited human experience. And when you bring the voice of your soul back in, your human experience starts to become a lot less limited, even if at the beginning there is loss. At the beginning, for many, when they tap into their voice of their soul, they have to rearrange their lives in such a way that they get rid of certain things before they can allow in the good. So more and more will connect to their psychic, intuitive selves as the years go on, because it will just become more normal. It will not become this novelty. It will no longer be this thing for people, but it will become an important part of people's wisdom and connection on Earth. And that is healthy, for it is the return of one of your skills and designs as humans.
You outlined or touched upon moments of intervention on this planet. We work with entheogenic psychedelic medicines, and some of them, particularly mushrooms and ayahuasca, seem like a technology. They do not seem like a drug or anything we've ever experienced. And our question is, was this placed on the planet by an outside source, or are these medicines of the earth?
Both are true. So they are medicines of the earth in that they are rooted into the crystalline grid of the earth, which is very deep at the heart of the planet. So they have roots to that crystalline energy, but the psychedelic component itself is what bypasses the limitation of the human mind and puts people back into the realm of one consciousness. One consciousness. However, how the person responds to that experience is entirely dictated by them. So if you have a very fearful person who has a psychedelic experience and they go into it with fear, they are likely to have a fairly, at least fear including experience. If you have someone who goes into the psychedelic experience open-hearted, open-minded, ready to be shown or experience something, they will go into it with a, we will say, calmer attitude and aptitude, and that will give them an experience that is lighter and brighter. However, there are those, what you might call trips, that take place for the more seasoned journeyer that will be intense or deep. But the seasoned journeyer will not see it as fear. The seasoned journeyer will understand that they have gone into the psychedelic realm, which is a realm of truth. It is a realm you are propelled into faster than you may have accessed it without the psychedelic impetus. Of course, there are many who meditate and create these states within themselves through other methods. But for those of you who journey, it is a, shall we say, window back to space. And that is very important for many of you. And this is why the cosmic connection that happens for so many with psychedelics is so powerful. But like any drug, if the dosage is not correct for the individual, if it is too much for them, or it is not something that aligns with their body, it will not necessarily be a harmonious experience. But for many, it will be the gateway, the doorway, the opener that they perhaps may not experience. Why? Because we said to you earlier, and Lee mentioned this also in more potent words than we did, spirituality is a sensory experience, not a mental one. And a psychedelic experience is highly sensory. And it is a way to put people into their senses who perhaps have not accessed their own senses for a long time.
When people have these experiences, they experience oneness. They call it many names: apotheosis, merging with the all that is, and people can access this through meditation and other ecstatic states of consciousness. This phenomenon can often heal people. It can often be transformational and transcendental. But this, when we return, we are left with sort of the suspicion that the separation is either an illusion or it is the source of all of our suffering and perhaps disease. Is this true?
Yes, the separation is an illusion, but there is an illusion on energetic levels and there are illusions on earth levels. And separation is not an illusion on the earth level, for it is sewn into your society. It is sewn into your society in many different ways. Now, the beauty of your society is that it also affords you all the ability to connect. It affords you, and so does your consciousness, it affords you the ability to connect. This is why those who have not developed their own consciousness are living in a form of prison. They are living in the personality, they are living in the physical impulse only, and they are often living in a very difficult state in their own mind. But those who have accessed oneness, those who have expanded their consciousness, they can move between the two worlds and the two states. So for all who are listening or thinking about either using the psychedelic experience or have had the psychedelic experience to open this consciousness, yes, you do access truth, but then you return to a world where psychedelic medicine, like many other plant medicines that are not psychedelic, were forbidden at a certain time on Earth. And still to this day, they are forbidden in many areas, many cultures. It is a doorway for healing, and there are many doorways for healing that have been hidden, removed, cast out, banned, destroyed, so that you get the limited version that you have all been given. And that is what is changing in your generation. In your generation, there is a new awareness of the return to the earth, of those things that were confiscated, and we will call it low vibration alternatives that were put in their place. So this is a period of emancipation for humans, and this period is going to last several decades. It won't always be easy. It will sometimes be messy. But more who are remembering oneness, whether it is through a psychedelic experience or not, once it's remembered, it cannot be forgotten. And the more humans walking around the planet with that level of awareness and knowledge fully in their body, fully in their energy field, fully in their mind, in their way of communicating, they change the vibration of the planet simply through what they emit.
We created Acid for Squares to try to help people heal, ease suffering, and to grow spiritually. How can we better execute this mission?
Well, we will say you created Acid for Squares to connect. And it's not to say that what you just said isn't also true. But actually what you did was you created this to connect with your own cosmic community, those others who felt othered like you did. You decided, we know what it is to feel othered. We know what it is to feel alone. We know what it is to not have access to what you need. So we will create something that will solve all of those issues. And we will join forces to do it, and we will see how it evolves. What we will tell you is your mission, your work, is going very well and has been going very well for quite some time. You will see that in 2026, you will reach a nexus point with this, we will call it method. We will call it framing of what you do. And this will remain, but you will expand beyond it in much bigger ways. So what has been created as a connection point and an education point is about to become more of a movement.
Thank you so much. We will close up now and just thank you, brother. Thank you, Lee. And thank you.
A pleasure to be with you all in golden consciousness, in oneness consciousness, and in peace and love to all.
Yeah, that was amazing,
brother.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank
baby.
You so
You're amazing. You beautiful man. That's what I'm talking about. That's how it's done. You're a clean channel.
That was amazing.
That was beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Bless you.
Oh my God.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. Pleasure to do this with
I have dreamed. I was telling you, one day we're going to be sitting in our studio with an extraterrestrial. And I was sitting there and I was like, the day has come.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. And like, it's been such a pleasure meeting you. You're such an angel.
Same. You two are lovely. And it's so, I really love like I mentioned when we were outside, you've got that Christmas tree and I'm like, keep that Christmas tree because it's fun. And you walk in and it's different. You know, I've done a lot of podcasts, but to come in here with all your colors and I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Because I didn't know you guys before, you know, the conversation about coming on the show. So I'm glad you're out there doing what you're doing.
Would you like to be friends?
Friends as in like real friends? Like with
friends.
Oh my God, yes. Yes, that'd be lovely.
It's on, baby. That's just like that.
Brilliant.
You're an angel, and thank you for. I'm sure this has been a long journey and a lot of work to get to the point where you can do what you do so effortlessly with ease, and we are grateful.
Well, thank you, and I'm grateful to be at that point too. You know, I've done it 21 years now publicly, and it is true. It does get a little. It's nice to go, oh, it's easier now than it used to be. You know. So that's cool.
Yeah, people don't understand how taxing it could be, though. There's a recovery. There's a lot.
Yeah.
It's
a
lot to it, huh?
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, Lee, as we close up here, is there anything you would like to leave our audience with, or things that you have coming up, or anything you tell them?
You know, one of the things we're really excited about for 2026 is we're going out on tour again. So we did a tour called the Big Love Tour in 2024, and we took it to Australia and New Zealand early 25. So the oneness experience is going to be coming to, I think, 16 different cities across North America, starting in LA on May 30th, and we'll run through July 2nd or 3rd in Canada, I believe. We'll end in Canada. And then we're working on the dates for Europe right now, so they should be announced soon for October 2026. And then I have a program called Rebirth, which is 21 Days to Higher Consciousness, which we're doing in early February. It will be 21 days of up to 30 minutes each day where you will tune into me and my music partner, Devor, who will be accompanying the channeling, and we'll have some music as part of it. I also am bringing 7 guest teachers with me this year, so that as you go through the 21 days, all you have to commit to is, I just need to give this up to 30 minutes a day. And if I go through this 21 days, I will have harmonized my frequency into a higher consciousness through all of these different modalities and methods. And so we're working on that right now, and that will be February. So we can't wait for that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you tell them where to find you?
Yes. So leeharrisenergy.com is my website. leeharrismusic.com is where we host all the music. And then, you know, I have a YouTube channel where every month I do a free energy update every month at the beginning of the month. And that's usually a good 35 minute teaching on what to expect energetically and what's coming up. So most people find me through the energy updates on YouTube usually.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time.
rock.
Yeah, you're awesome.
That's
you're
what's
absolutely
up.
awesome.
You're welcome back whenever you'd like.
Very good. You're very
Whatever you like.
You two are like you're like cheerleaders. This is great. Thank you.
I know, because it's awesome. Are you kidding me? This is the shit they write religious texts about. That's what I'm talking about.
He is the orator, isn't he?
It's the revolution.
Yes, it's great.
You got that. You were so smart. That is such a thing with me and her. And it took us. This is the thing, is like, she was behind the camera on our first show and I was hosting.
Yeah.
And she came on an episode because we did a ceremony and I was told Tanya has to be on. So we tried to do an episode and I tried to control what she was saying, because we were like kind of like a science-y show about psychedelics, and she was talking more spiritually, and I stifled her. I made her cry. She ran to the bathroom, ran off the stage. It was
the episode
terrible.
never came out, obviously.
We did ceremony after ceremony after ceremony and we kept trying to make working together work, and it wasn't until we said 50-50, it's equal, co-creators, fuck any other credit, everything we do is equal, and then that's how Ask for Squares got born. And so everything you said, we were like,
I love that. So that's great.
Thank you
so much.
Good luck. You got this. You're amazing. And whoever told you to lose the channeling and you'd be more successful.
They're an asshole.
I don't mean to be mean, but they go fuck themselves. Okay. All right, everybody. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, rate, comment, send this to your mother. She misses you. And I always tell them that. I mean, if she's no longer with us, I apologize for being insensitive, but that's besides the point.
Send her a prayer.
Yeah, send her a prayer.
Talk to her. She's around you.
We love you. Be well. Take care of each other. Until next time.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.